So, Northamptonshire Community Foundation, some of you in this online room might have heard of us before. We are one of the largest independent grant making organisations in the county. So, by independent, we mean that we're not affiliated or under the umbrella of either of the local unitary authorities. We're a completely independent grant making charity. We are part of a network of community foundations across the UK, and I think at the moment there's around 41, 42, I think, community foundations in the UK, but they are all over the world. And the main focus of community foundations is about connecting local philanthropists, local donors. So whether that could be people or organisations that are part of the corporate world.
Alex, you're on mute.
Oh dear, I might have accidentally pressed the spacebar button by accident. But yes, so community foundations are all about connecting people who want to give back locally to their place. So in this case, it's Northamptonshire. So we're all about place-based giving. And that's how we work with our donors and fund holders. And that's how we ensure that funding can come in to support organisations, charities, whether that be community organisations, social enterprises, CIOs, or companies limited by guarantee without shareholders are able to support communities locally. So all of our applications are done via our website. So if you go onto our website, at the bottom of this slide, you'll see our web address, and you can go onto the grants available page and you'll see all the different funds that we have available at any given time. They do change throughout the year. There are some funds that you might see pretty much there all year round, and there'll be ones that pop up that are maybe just there for on an annual basis, so they pop up once a year. So it's always good to check our website regularly, and then also to follow us on social media. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I think we're still on Twitter, but who knows, we might be moving to Blue Sky soon. So you can follow all of the announcements on of what funds are available and keep up to date of sort of closing dates and things like that. We also do have a newsletter that you can sign up to as well, and you can do that via our website. In terms of looking at the different funds, some of them are going to have a focus on a particular geographical area. Some of them might have a focus on a particular theme like health and wellbeing, or it could be supporting women and girls, or it might be supporting young people. So there are a variety of different funds at any given time. If you're ever having a look at our website and are unsure, please contact the grants team and we can always point you in the best direction of the fund that's going to be the most appropriate to you. And if it is the case that we aren't able to support your project, we will try and support you or signpost you towards other funders, whether that be locally or nationally as well. And how we give out the grant funding, some of them are going to be on a rolling basis. So this means that the fund is open for applications at any time. There's no set deadline. It's completely down to when you're ready to submit the application, and then we usually review those on a monthly basis. So this means that from putting in an application, you're probably about 4 weeks away from having an answer, which is a pretty quick turnaround in the grant making world. And then we have other funds where they're going to have a set deadline and they will go to a grants panel, and that process can take usually around 8 weeks. So still a fairly quick turnaround. Our grant giving, we've got a sort of a list of sort of when our grant panels take place throughout the year. So you can see it's on a very regular basis. And we try to award over £1 million each year. We have had some very big years of funding. So, for example, during the COVID pandemic, we awarded over £2 million as we were helping to distribute national funds on behalf of National Emergencies Trust and also national government as well. So we do sometimes link up with national partners to make sure that funding is coming into the county. So eligibility. So what we're looking for in terms of supporting documents to ensure that your organisation is grant ready and able to manage a project. We're looking for organisations that have a sort of a committee or a board, whether that's a board of trustees or directors. And as part of that, we're looking for organisations that have a constitution or a governing document. As part of that governing document, we look to see that organisations have a dissolution or wind up clause. So this is where, if in the event that your organisation was to wind down, that any remaining assets after your liability's been paid are going to an organisation that has a sort of similar purpose within the county. This is just to make sure that any assets that are supported by NCF are making sure that they stay within the county and not disappearing off up to a national charity. We ask that groups have a bank account in their own name, and we ask to see a recent copy of a bank statement. We also ask to see a set of annual accounts, or if your group has been running for less than a year, we'll ask to see multiple copies of bank statements over a period of time. We ask that groups have safeguarding policies and procedures in place to make sure that you're protecting children and young people or vulnerable adults if you are working with children and young people and vulnerable adults. You've got to be a local organisation, so you've got to be based in Northamptonshire, and the work that you're doing is supporting the Northamptonshire communities. And then we also ask for an equality or a equality and diversity policy as well. So before I get on to the different funds that we've got available at the moment, I'm just going to briefly touch on an aspect around focusing on need. So for all of our grant applications, there will be some kind of question in there that is talking about why is there a need for this project? Why is there a need for the project to go ahead? What disadvantage is it going to be tackling in your community? I'm going to be also talking more about this in the hints and tips workshops that I'm going to be doing later this month, which everyone's welcome to sign up to. But I'll just touch on it briefly here. So as an organisation, you might find that you can getting feedback from your staff, from your volunteers, and anecdotally from your service users that there is something, there's a need within your community. So whether that's people are isolated, if you're finding that there's more people with low mood who are attending your sessions, if there's issues around food poverty, for example, that you might be seeing on a daily basis, and you want to obviously put in a project, an application to support a project that's going to be tackling those needs. And as part of that, you might have, as I said, that anecdotal information, which is really important. But a lot of funders, including ourselves, also want to have that backed up with some statistics and data, whether that is through public health or other sort of reports, or from example the census or anything like that, to be able to back up what you're saying with some information and data. So we have put together, there's two sources where you can find information. So both of these are available on our website, and you can use these for applying for grant funds to NCF, but also please feel free to use them if you're applying to any other funders as well. So one of them is our Northamptonshire Insights page. So if you go onto our work area, which is this one with the two hands together, if you click on that on our website, it will take you to You'll have different options, and one of them is Northamptonshire Insights. And on that page, we have we're working with Local Insights, which is able to collect together all of the different databases of all of the hundreds of reports that are out there, to collate all that information and make it specific to a particular geographical area. So we've got reports available that focus on Corby, Kettering, Wellingborough, East Northants, but also Northampton, Daventry, South Northants. So you can have a look at the information and data that's specific to your area, and we try and keep that fairly well updated with the reports on there. And that will cover things like housing, deprivation, sort of how many people are accessing benefits, all of that kind of information is there. And then in 2023, we also worked with the University of Northampton to put together a report, the Hidden Needs Report, which can also be found on our website. And again, that gives a host of information about stats and facts covering more broader areas, so mostly covering sort of the data comes down to Western Northamptonshire. So again, it's a really good resource if you're thinking, why is there a need for the project? What disadvantage am I going to be tackling? It's a good one to look at. And as I said, you can use it for us or any other funders as well. So now on to the funds that we've actually got available right now. So the first one I want to talk about is the Randall Charitable Foundation Fund. This is a new partnership for us, working with the Randall Foundation. We're able to offer grants for up to £3,000, and this is focused on more of the smaller grassroots organisations. So organisations that have an annual turnover of £50,000 or less. And their aims that they're looking to tackle are in blue. So the healthcare for vulnerable, tackling mental ill health, alleviating poverty, projects that are working on prisoner rehabilitation and education for the most disadvantaged. So, for example, if you're wanting to run a project that's going to support people's mental health and well-being, this could be a good project, a good fund to apply for. It's a rolling programme. So that means that you can apply at any time, but we have got to get the funds out of the door by the end of March. So if you are looking to apply for funding in the next couple of months, please take a look at the Randall Charitable Foundation Fund. It as I said, can support a fairly wide range of different projects. So if you're doing anything about tackling poverty, whether that be in terms of looking to support benefits advice, or whether it be food poverty, healthcare for the vulnerable, that could include a whole host of different things, whether you're offering a day service, for example. It can, as I said, support quite a wide range of different projects. The main thing to focus on is in terms of your annual income as an organisation, if it's £50,000 or less. Now we also have the Cecil Pettit Legacy Fund. So this fund is for up to £5,000, and it's for any type of project that is looking to support people living with disabilities, which can include projects supporting those who are living with long-term health conditions, or also mental health conditions as well. We've got some examples of some of the different projects that you could look for support for. So whether that's advocacy groups, whether that's activities that are helping disabled people access educational training, wellbeing projects. This is one of the funding programs that does have a set deadline, which is at the end of February, and then projects will find out if they've been successful or not before the end of March. And here again, just some of the different types of projects that we funded. So some examples. So the Voice That Makes a Difference. We were able to award them funds to support men with disabilities and mental health issues, to help improve their self-esteem and learning new skills through cooking. We've awarded Glamis Hall for All through this fund previously, supporting older people with poor mobility, being able to get more active and helping to reduce isolation. And then also we've supported organisations like Northamptonshire's Deaf Children's Society as well, working with children from the deaf community, helping them get more active and obviously helping to support inclusion. Now, this is a new fund for us. So this is the African and Caribbean Elders Service Legacy Fund. Some of you may have been aware, or hopefully a lot of you have been aware, of the African and Caribbean Elders Service, which is a charity that has been running for a long time within the county, and have come to the stage where they have now wound down the charity. And to support the legacy of their work, they've established a fund with NCF, which means that they can, through this fund, we can help carry on their work by supporting organisations that are Black and global majority led, support people from those communities as they sort of get older and need that extra support. So it's for grants of up to £3,000, and it can provide a whole host of support for older people. So whether that's looking at increasing and improving existing day service that you might have on offer, if you're providing advice and advocacy support, befriending support, whether it's support for people who are living in their homes or wanting to reduce isolation by putting on different activities for older people from the Black and global majority communities. It's a really wonderful fund that we've been able to open with working with the trustees of ACES. So please, obviously, have a look on our website. If you have any questions about any of these funds, please feel free to get in contact with the grants team. Now onto a fund which is specific to the Margaret Giffen, specific to Northamptonshire, which is the Margaret Giffen Community Fund. Just to say, if it hasn't been clear so far, all of the funds that I've been talking about up until this point have been open to organisations across the county, so both in West and North. But this fund is specific to Northamptonshire. It's for grants for up to £3,000, and it's for projects that are tackling disadvantage and poverty. So that can take its shape in many different ways. So whether that's looking at food or fuel poverty, whether it's providing free activities and sessions, whether it's looking at arts and culture or sports or recreation, or again, whether it's advocacy and support and advice for people who might need support accessing benefits, for example. As you'll probably be able to tell from a lot of the funds I've covered so far, the majority of the grants that we are awarding are between sort of the £3,000 to £5,000 range. So our focus is on sort of more supporting organisations with either that are on the lower grassroots end of the scale. I know that throughout the funding fair across the next 2 months, there's going to be funders who are going to be able to support organisations who are looking for those 10, 20 plus £1,000 funds as well. But as I said, the majority of ours are often on that lower end. And so with this fund, there is a deadline at the start of March. And similarly, we have another fund that's got a deadline for the 7th of March. And this is the Northamptonshire Queen's Institute Relief Fund. So previously, this fund has just been focused on Northampton only, but we have, with the permission of the Charity Commission, been able to extend it so it covers the whole of the county. And it's looking to support health and wellbeing projects. It's a grant for up to £5,000. So any project that's looking to support health and wellbeing can apply to this fund. So whether that is supporting emotional health and well-being or physical health and well-being. It can support any of those types of projects. And now this is a new fund for us. So this is going to be for any groups who have joined us from South Northants. So this is a fund that has, in partnership with Iron Properties, it's going to be supporting projects that are in and around Towcester and those surrounding villages. It's a grant for between £2,000 to £5,000, and they've got three main aims that they're focusing on. So strengthening communities, enhancing the natural environment, and promoting positive change, which again, it's all pretty broad in terms of what it can support. And it can support with different types of funding. So it can include core costs, it can include things like venue hire, staff costs, equipment, capital costs, etc. As long as it's all sort of in line with the project delivery. So it's a fairly broad fund supporting groups in and around Towcester. And the deadline for that fund, as you can see, is again the 7th of March. So that's another date to put in the diary. With the just a sort of note, with the Queen's Institute Fund and the Margaret Giffin Fund, there are later rounds of those funds later on during the year. So if for whatever reason you can't make the 7th of March deadline, the Queen's Institute and the Margaret Giffin Fund will be open again later on during the year. The Towcester Park one will be opening again later in the year, but it will be more towards the autumn period that it will have its second round. And here are some other funds to have a look out for. So we have the Constance Travis Endowment Fund for Northamptonshire. So that's a grant for up to £2,000. It's a rolling programme. So that means that organisations can apply at any time. It's very broad in what it wants to support. So things like poverty, gender equality, climate action. It can support projects around reduced inequalities, hunger, a whole host of different goals that it's looking to achieve. At the moment, we are coming to the end of our financial year, so it's almost been fully allocated, but it will refresh with new funds once we go into April. So applications can still come in. It may just be that rather than looking at it within 4 weeks, it might be that we don't look at it until the start of April, just to make you aware. But as I said, there are other funds available which we can look at now, such as the Randall Charitable Foundation. Then we've got a couple of other more geographically specific funds. So we do manage some wind farm funds. So one of them is the Yelvertoft, then we've got one over covering Winwick, and another covering Burton, Latimer and Cranford. These are very specific to the sort of geographical area, as I mentioned. And unlike some of our other funds, which can't support statutory organisations, the wind farm funds can support statutory organisations such as the local parish council, town councils, as long as the work is supporting the community and has a community benefit and isn't covering something that should be a statutory service. So that's so if you are covered by those areas, it's a very handy fund to be able to access. And then lastly on that page, we've got the Family Food Aid Fund, which is supporting, it's kind of what it says on the tin, it's supporting projects where there are family or children, young people. So it could be a specific community larger project where you're targeting families who are financially disadvantaged, or it might be something like you're setting up a breakfast club, or on the weekends or during the school holidays, you're supporting families on a low income. And that is another rolling programme. Okay, and now we're going to head on to the funds that are opening soon. So we've got some exciting funds coming up. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Northamptonshire Creative Climate Action Fund. Now, this is quite a large grant in terms of what we normally fund. So this is for grants of up to £50,000. It to support a two years worth of project activity. This is for organisations who are looking to build awareness, encourage people to make behavioural changes in terms of obviously the environment and climate action. As part of that work, you must be working with a professional arts practitioner or an arts organisation. The fund first opened a couple of years ago with its first round. So some of the organisations that were two of the organisations that were funded were Soul Haven, who were working with an artist around using sustainable projects to do printmaking, and ran a lot of community workshops alongside that. And then in the north, it supported Firmin Wood's Contemporary Art organisation that worked with a range of different artists working with schools, but also outside of schools, and created a range of different projects, including one in, I believe it was Earthlingborough Park, I believe. So it ran quite a different range of different activities for people to take part in. For this round, it's going to be a two-stage process because it is a large grant. So there'll be an expression of interest, which groups can fill out. It will be, again, available as an online form via our website. It should hopefully be opening soon. We're just waiting for the donor just to sign off the dates for this. But it will be an expression of interest, and then there'll be an invited shortlisted group of organisations that will be asked to complete the full application. Then we have a slightly smaller version of that fund, which is the Small Green Arts Fund. So that's for grants of up to £3,000, which community groups can apply to provide any creative arts projects or crafts projects that, again, are going to help promote sustainability, environmental awareness, and adapting lifestyle. So that could be using recycled materials or sustainable materials to create art projects, working with the local community. It's on a smaller scale, but hopefully will have a great impact as well on promoting climate change. We've now this is a new fund for us. We haven't worked with SWEF before, but so this is quite exciting. So this is a business grant which is available to young people between 18 and 30 to support the young entrepreneurs in the county. Again, we're hoping it's going to be open before the end of February. So this might be where there's a young person who might be struggling to access support, such as business loans, to be able to get their business off the ground. We've got there'll be two strands to this. So there'll be the startup business grants for up to £500, supporting individuals who are in the very early stages of their business. And then we'll have a slightly larger grant for those more established businesses that have been running for less than 2 years. And again, that's to support the growth and development of businesses. So this is a good one. I said it won't be for organisations to apply to, but it would be good for if you want to signpost young people who have that entrepreneurial spirit, who've got a great idea, but don't necessarily have the financial backing they need to get it off the ground. And this fund is actually going to be opening up tomorrow morning. So this is the Northamptonshire Federation of Disability Sport. It's a relaunch because we've been working with NFDS for a while. And this is going to be a small grant, so for up to £500, but it's going to be looking to support projects that are going to be helping disabled people, people living with long-term health conditions and mental health conditions get physically active and into sport. So if you are an organisation that's either thinking of helping to get people active, or you might already be offering sports sessions or physically active sessions, but want to be able to make it as inclusive as possible, then this is a great fund to look at. It's a fairly short turnaround. Oh, there we go. In terms of time. So the deadline for this is going to be the 1st of April. So it's opening tomorrow, deadline the 1st of April. And then we look to have a panel in May, and then for projects to start by the end of June. So it'd be great if you're planning some summer activities. Fingers crossed the weather will be all right. And if you're looking to, as I said, to help people who might have additional barriers to accessing physical activity get more physically healthy. And I'm sure you'll be pleased to know that is the end of my long stream of grants that I've talked about. As you can see on here, we've got my email address, but then also the contact details for Sandy and Laura, who are part of the grants team. And you can obviously contact any of us if you've got any questions about the grants that are available, or if you have any questions about eligibility criteria, or have any ideas and want us to point you in the right direction. And I shall stop sharing in case people have got questions and want to put their hand up or pop something in the chat.
Alex, thanks so much. And what a great way to kick our funding fair off. If any of you are new to NCF, Northamptonshire Community Foundation, they're the bedrock and backbone of our funding community, and dedicated to us in Northamptonshire, North and West. So, Alex, that's really great, and great to see that it's dynamic and you've got new funders coming through as well. Alex, I'll kick off with a question, although I see that we have Susan's one there. Let's take Susan. Is there a rule on how many directors a CIC must have to be eligible to apply, please?
Yes, so at the moment we ask there to be at least 2 directors, and they can't be related in any way. So they can't be blood related or married or sort of anything like that. They have to be 2 separate ones. As a general rule of thumb, there are funders such as the National Lottery who ask for 3 independent directors. So if you are wanting to apply to other funders out there, you might want to go with the 3. And another criteria that we have for directors is that for social enterprises such as CICs, is that there can't be a person who's just one sole person who's got significant control of the organisation. So it has to be that all of the directors have equal rights, so that it's obviously not just one person essentially that we're funding, which is part of our due diligence work. So that would be, if you are thinking about setting up a social enterprise such as a CIC, I really would recommend having 3 directors in place and making sure that there's no person with significant control.
Thanks, Alex. And just to add to that, it's often stated that they shouldn't be living at the same address. It's all about making it transparent, and that the money is controlled fairly and accessed fairly and used for the intended benefits. So, Alex, I was going to just ask you if an organisation can apply to more than one fund.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Yes, indeed. So we have a general rule of thumb, which is that organisations can have 2 live grants at any one time, but they have to be from separate pots of funding. So it's from separate grant funding pots. So, for example, you could have one from the Randall Charitable Foundation, and you could have another one via the Queen's Institute. But they also have to be for separate projects. So we can't so we can't duplicate and fund the same project twice. So you might, for example, have a project, let's say, that's focusing on delivering support services in Northants. So you might put an application into the Margaret Giffin Fund and be awarded through that. And then you may have a project where you're looking to support, let's say, people in Northampton, and therefore you can apply to a different fund. Or it could be that one project you're working with young people and one project you're working with adults and older people. It just has to be for two separate projects. There are always with any rules, there's always exceptions to the rules. So we do sometimes have donor directed projects, programs, where it's the donor, the fund holder, who's making the decision as to who they want to award, and in which case there may be times when an organisation may have 3 or 4 live grants with us, but 2 is sort of essentially the general rule of thumb.
Thank you. Okay, Alex, there's some questions in the chat as well that have just popped up. Can parish councils apply to support our youth development officer and her work, as they hold the bank account?
So with parish councils, it is tricky because a lot of the time, with most of our funds, we can't fund parish councils. As I said, with any rules, there are exceptions. So, for example, if you are in one of the wind farm fund areas, then parish councils can apply. And we have, last year, we did have a rural community needs fund, which again allowed applications from parish councils. But a lot of the time, for the 90% of our funds, they're not open to parish councils. If you are having some youth development support, it could be that you want to set up a CIO or a CIC, or a separate community organisation in your parish, to be able to support projects that are doing community work that aren't statutory. And that might be something that you want to have a conversation with Sean about. But yes, a lot of the time parish councils can't apply to us. But I know that, again, Sean, fountain of knowledge that he is, does know of funds that parish councils can apply to. So yeah, please give Sean an email.
Yeah, absolutely. And just picking up on that, yeah, so a parish council, like a school, could create a friends of group that was separately constituted, would need to have its own small committee to be the trustees of that fund, and the parish council could be the accountable body that held the funds on behalf of that constituted group. But it has its own governance arrangements, its own governance documentation, etc. Happy to talk about that further. And just another fund that comes to mind for parish councils is Tesco's Community Fund, which I'm going to be running a session on in a few days' time or weeks. Right. So we said an hour for the session. That was always sort of the parameter. I was always thinking that we may well finish ahead of that time and be able to give you back a few minutes of the hour that you've set down to join us. Alex, thank you so much for kickstarting us. You'll know, if you've looked at the schedule of the various elements of the funding fair, that Alex returns to run another session, which is about what makes a good application, and to help you in that sort of headspace and thinking. So thank you for that, Alex. So do look at the funding fair, folks, and book into other sessions as you might find helpful. Lots of interesting stuff going on. And as Alex mentioned, there are quite a number of larger funders that are coming down the stream. So with that, going once, going twice, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Alex, and cheerio.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.